The big room at the fancy Alvier Hotel was full of people. Cameras flashed, and the smell of coffee and warm croissants filled the air. Lionel Messi was standing on a stage, talking about a new community center his foundation was building. But suddenly, a loud voice interrupted. Messi, how can you talk about God when football is just human talent? Shouted a journalist named Martin Andrews. Everyone turned to look at him. Security guards got ready to step in. Messi stayed calm. He put down his papers and looked at Andrews. Faith is not about explaining talent, Messi said, adjusting his suit. Andrews shook his head. Please? People are starving in the slums and you talk about miracles. Where is your God in all this? In the front row, Messi's wife Anna clenched her fists. Photographers snapped pictures like crazy. Messi pointed at the big screen behind him. That's why we're here, to build something real, not to argue. Che Boludo, let him speak, someone yelled from the back. Messi raised his hand to calm the crowd. He turned back to Andrews. Martin, right? Let's talk after this. No cameras, just us. We can have dinner. Just then Andrews's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face turned pale. His hand shook. We found new information about the accident, a message read. Messi didn't look away. Do you have more questions? He asked. Andrews put his phone in his pocket, looking serious. Yes, but only if I can follow you for a week. I want to see the real Messi and show the truth. Messi's team shook their heads, but Messi stopped them. All right, he said, but you must promise to look for the truth, even if it's not what you expect. People in the room started whispering. Andrews smirked and held out his hand. Deal. Messi's secretary quickly stepped in with a document. Mr. Andrews, you need to sign this. Andrews laughed. A secret paper? Does the great Messi have secrets? Messi shook his head. No, but the families we help deserve privacy. Andrews signed it. His phone buzzed again, but this time he ignored it. Messi, however, saw his phone's wallpaper, a picture of San Jose Church in Rosario. Messi's grandmother used to take him there when he was little. The sun was rising in Rosario, painting the streets orange. Andrews parked his car near an old grill house called El Pato. It still had its faded sign, and the smell of firewood filled the air. Black coffee? Asked Don Alberto, the old grill master. As always, Andrews said, staring at the corner table. You still keep the old pictures? Andrews asked. Don Alberto wiped his hands. Funny thing, just yesterday Father Michael asked me the same question. Father Michael? He's still alive. Sharper than ever, Don Alberto chuckled. He pulled out an old photo album. Did you know Clara used to teach kids at San Jose? The same church where little Messi. Andrews's phone buzzed. We found the security video from that night, a message read. His hands shook as he flipped through the album. Then he froze. In one photo, his wife Clara was smiling with a group of kids. And on the edge of the picture, a little boy with a big jersey and a familiar smile. Lionel Messi. When was this taken? Andrews's voice cracked. A week before the accident, Don Alberto said. Your Clara always said that boy was special. She had faith. Faith. A soccer ball bounced outside. A group of kids was playing. Come on, Leo, one of them shouted, pretending to be Messi. Andrews ran out, leaving his coffee behind. His phone buzzed again. Father Michael wants to see you. He says it's about Clara's last confession. As Andrews drove off, he didn't see the old man watching from the grill house. It was Father Michael holding a yellow envelope, looking like he carried a heavy secret. Che, Father, Don Alberto called. Did I tell you Messi is coming tomorrow? No need, Father Michael said. Some truths take time. Some wounds take 15 years to heal. On the car radio, Messi was speaking in an interview. Tomorrow, I will visit special places from my childhood in Rosario. Places that taught me that faith isn't about miracles, it's about people. Andrews turned off the radio. But the words had already reached a part of his heart where he kept Clara's last smile. The sunlight came through the windows of Las Violetas Cafe. On a small table, Lionel Messi was waiting. His coffee and croissant sat untouched. Andrews was 20 minutes late. Sorry, Andrews said, rushing in with a folder. Traffic on Avenida Rivadavia. Messi smiled. No problem. How was Rosario? Andrews froze. How do you know I was there? Father Michael called me. Andrews sat down. A waiter poured more coffee. Andrews placed a folder on the table. I have an idea, he said, sliding a paper to Messi. A documentary about the real Messi. No script. Just 1 week, you and me. And the real reason. Messi took a sip of coffee. Because this isn't really about football, is it? Andrews pulled out an old photo. Do you recognize her? Messi's eyes softened. Claire. She was my first catechism teacher. She was my wife, Andrews said, his voice shaking. And according to you and Father Michael, she left me a message before. Crash. A cup fell nearby. A family had walked up to Messi asking for a picture. Sure, but quickly, Messi said, always polite. As Messi posed, Anna walked in. She noticed the photo on the table. Leo, the community center team is waiting, she said, looking at Andrews kindly. 5 minutes, Messi said, then turned back to Andrews. I agree to the documentary, but on 3 conditions. Andrews leaned forward. First, total privacy for the families at the community center. Second, we visit places I choose. And third, Messi paused. You must listen to Clara's last confession recording. Andrews turned pale. There's a recording? Father Michael kept it all these years. Messi stood up and left money for the coffee. Deal? Why are you helping me after how I treated you? Andrews asked. Messi stopped. Because Clara taught me something important. Faith is not just about believing in God. It's about giving people hope. He walked quietly while the children played. Come on, Martin, Jack said softly. I never miss a penalty. No, I can't. Andrew stepped back, his voice shaky. I need air. He ran outside to the patio. He could still hear the children laughing, shouting, goal. Life was moving forward. He sat on a bench and covered his face with his hands. Do you know what Jack told me when he came here? Messi's voice surprised him. What? That God gave him a superhero wheelchair. Please no, Andrews murmured. I'm not talking about religion, Messi said. I'm talking about a 12-year-old boy who found light in the dark. Like your son. Clara told me he never stopped smiling. Andrews looked up, surprised. She talked about Tomas? The last time I saw her, Messi said. The day before the accident. A ball bounced nearby. Jack rolled up in his wheelchair. Mr. Journalist, he called. My mom says when we miss someone a lot, we can honor them by being happy. Do you want to try? Andrews looked at Messi, who nodded. A penalty, Andrews whispered, standing up. Just one. Get ready? Jack smiled, moving toward the goal. I'm better than Dibu Martinez. The smell of grilled meat filled the air at Don Julio. Andrews looked at his glass of Malbec while Messi cut a hot cheese dish. Why didn't you tell me before? Andrews asked. About Clara. Tell you what? That you knew her. Would you have believed me? Messi said, serving the cheese. 3 days ago, you called me a liar in front of everyone. Andrews's phone buzzed. Recovered video. There's something you need to see. The last time I saw Clara, Messi said, she asked me to take care of someone. I didn't understand until today when I saw you with Jack. Don't bring my son into this, Andrews said angrily. She knew, Messi said quietly. She knew something bad was going to happen. A loud noise made them turn. Anna had arrived with Tiago, Messi's son. Dad. Tiago ran to Messi but stopped when he saw their serious faces. Hey kid. Andrews forced a smile. Do you play goalie like Jack? Tiago sat down. Mom says he's an angel. Anna placed a hand on Andrews' shoulder. So was Clara. You knew her too? Andrews asked, shocked. She told me Leo needed a strong family, not just a girlfriend. Anna smiled. She said real faith starts at home. Andrews' phone buzzed again. This time he checked it. His face turned pale. The video, he whispered. The car that caused the accident had the club's emblem. What club? Messi asked, but he already knew. Look. Andrews showed the image. Clara went to give donations to the club school that day. That's why Father Michael kept the video. Messi leaned in. It wasn't a secret. It was a warning. A warning about what? Andrews asked nervously. The same thing Clara discovered at the club, Anna said. The same thing Leo exposed years later. People were stealing money meant for children. But that was in 2012, Andrews frowned. 7 years after the accident. And right after we found her last letter. Messi pulled out a yellow envelope. The one Father Michael gave me for you. Andrews' hands shook as he held it. On the back, Clara's handwriting. For when you're ready to believe again. Why now? Andrews whispered. Because today, Messi said, for the first time since the accident, you played with a child in a wheelchair. Clara always said that would be the moment. Lightning flashed over the small chapel in Cordoba. Andrews, with Clara's letter still unopened, filmed families taking shelter from the storm. Close the doors, a volunteer shouted. The water is coming in. Messi helped move old people to a safe place. His phone rang. Father Michael. The letter, Messi said. Andrews, it's time to open it. Now. A loud thunderclap shook the walls. The lights went out. Hey Leo, a voice called in the dark. Tell us a story while we wait. A flashlight turned on. A dozen faces looked at Messi. I will tell you about my first teacher, Messi began. She taught me that miracles don't come from the sky. They come from people. Andrews stopped filming. His hands shook as he reached for the letter. Clara always said, Messi continued, that faith is like a storm. You can't control it, but you can choose how to face it. Did you meet her before going to Barcelona? An old woman asked. Yes, Messi said. She told my parents it was worth trying even if it seemed impossible. The paper crinkled as Andrews opened the letter. The flashlight's glow lit up the words written 15 years ago. Dear Martin. He began to read softly. If you are reading this, you have found someone who made you believe again. Not just in God, but in kindness. Rain hit the windows hard. The day I met Leo, the letter continued, I knew that God doesn't test us. He sends us teachers. Some are in wheelchairs, some are small, but they all have something to teach us. When I was sick, Messi said, many people thought it was a punishment, but Clara said it was a chance. A chance for what? A child asked. To show that limits, Messi said, are just the start of what we can do. Andrews read the letter and said the words in his head. Suddenly, water started coming into the room from under the door. We need to take everyone upstairs, someone shouted. Martin Messi ran over as they helped people leave. What else does the letter say? There is an address, Andrews said. In Rosario. And a date. The day after the accident. Lightning flashed, lighting up the church. On the wall, there was an old painting of Saint Cajetan, the saint of bread and work. He was her favorite saint, Andrews whispered. Clara always said that real faith feeds the soul, an old woman added. She said it at every mass. The lights came back on. Tears mixed with the rain on Andrews's face. We have to go to that address, Messi said, but first we help here. Why do you keep helping me? Andrews asked. Because I promised her, Messi said. And because every time I help someone, I feel like I'm giving back a little of what Clara gave to all of us. Messi's faith is his last refuge. The words shone on Anna's phone screen. What is this, Martin? The restaurant in Puerto Madero, with its view of the river, felt tense. Andrews swirled his wine, looking nervous. The editor published it without asking me, he tried to explain. It's not the real version. Sources say the famous player uses religion as a trick, Anna read aloud. People say he tricks poor families. The restaurant door opened. Messi walked in looking serious. How could you? He asked, putting his phone on the table. The photos of the kids from the school, Leo? I can explain. Andrews stood up. The editor? I don't care about the editor. Messi slammed his fist on the table. People turned to look. You signed a contract. People need to know. Know what? Anna asked. Does Leo visit hospitals in secret? That he helps families without telling anyone? Andrews's phone rang. He ignored it. Clara trusted you, Messi said, calmer now. That's why I chose you for this. You chose me? Andrews frowned. What are you talking about? Father Michael asked me to find you, Messi said, sitting down. He said it was time. That you were ready for the truth. A waiter came with a folder. Mr. Messi, the papers you asked for. Messi opened the folder and pulled out an old piece of paper. The real accident report. Andrews turned pale. That report was lost. No. Messi pushed the paper toward him. Clara sent it to the foundation the day before the accident. She wrote a note, for when Martin is ready to forgive. Forgive what? Yourself, Anna said. Outside, the river shone with city lights as Andrews read the report. His hand shook. The car wasn't from the club, he whispered. It was from the company you've been investigating, Messi said. The same company that stole money from the kids' sports schools. Clara knew, Messi continued. That's why she went to the church that night. Messi took out another paper. Not to confess. To give this to Father Michael. A list of names and numbers. Proof of people stealing money for years. Your article. Messi pointed at Andrews's phone. It didn't just break my trust. It broke Clara's last wish. What was her last wish? That the truth comes out only when it helps people, not hurts them. Anna held Messi's hand. Like now when the schools need help. Andrews's phone rang again. A message popped up. Viral video. Messi leaves restaurant after fight with reporter. It started, Messi sighed, standing up. Let's go, Anto. Leo, wait. Andrews stood. I can fix this. How? Messi asked. By writing another article? Using more kids in a story? No. Andrews put his phone down. By telling the real story. Clara's. Yours. Mine. Messi looked at Anna. She nodded. One chance, Messi said. Tomorrow. In Mar del Plata. There's someone you need to meet. Who? The son of the man driving the car that night. The Mar del Plata hospital was busy. Without cameras, Andrews followed Messi through the hallways. His name is Luke, Messi said. He's 20. He plays basketball. Through the glass, a young man in a wheelchair threw a ball into a hoop. Why did you bring me here? Andrews asked. Because he's been waiting for you for 15 years. Luke turned his wheelchair toward them. His eyes looked just like Clara's. My dad told me everything before he died, Luke said. About the accident. About Clara. About the stolen money. Andrews leaned on the wall. Your father was the club's accountant. The man driving the car that night, Luke said. He couldn't live with the guilt. Messi picked up a basketball and spun it on his finger. Luke has been coming to my foundation for years. He didn't know I knew his story. Why now? Andrews asked. Because I finally found this. Luke took out an old envelope. My dad's last letter. Andrews's hands shook as he read it. The accident wasn't an accident. I was told to scare her, to stop her from talking. But the car lost control. My dad took his life 3 years later, Luke said. He left this letter. And a bank account. Every month, some money went to your family through Leo's foundation. The secret donations, Andrews whispered. I thought they were from the club. Clara knew this would happen, Messi said, sitting next to Luke. That's why she made me promise to take care of everyone. The kids at the club. Luke took the basketball and made a perfect shot. When I lost the ability to walk, I wanted to die, he said. Then Clara's letter came. She wrote to everyone? Andrews asked. Only to people who needed faith, Messi said. Not faith in God. Faith in life. Luke rolled toward Andrews. My dad wasn't a bad man. He was scared and made a mistake. Like you did with your article. Do you forgive me? Andrews whispered. Clara already did. Luke smiled. She asked me to show you something. He held up an old photo. Clara, pregnant, standing next to Luke, dad at a party. They were friends, Luke said. She was my godmother. That night, she wanted to stop the people stealing from the club. The same sports program that saved my life. Messi picked up a ball that was rolling on the ground. Do you know why I chose this place for our meeting? He asked. Why? Andrews replied. Because here, every day, someone finds a reason to believe again. Not in magic, but in people. Luke, sitting in his wheelchair, smiled and spun around. Wanna play? Loser buys the croissants. For the first time in days, Andrews smiled too. With Messi on your team? That's not fair. Life isn't always fair, Luke said. But we can choose how we play. The San Jose church looked just like it had 15 years ago. Father Michael, now older with white hair, waited at the entrance. The sunlight made the stained glass windows shine with colors. It's time, Father Michael said as Messi and Andrews walked up to him. Clara would have been proud. Inside the church, their footsteps made echoes. Father Michael took them to a small room. I have a recording, he said. He pulled out an old cassette. It's not a confession as everyone thought. Andrews took the cassette with shaking hands. What is it? He asked. A message, Father Michael said. Clara knew her work was dangerous. She left this for safety. He put the cassette into a player. Clara's voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, something has happened to me. But it also means Martin is finally ready for the truth. Leo, if you're here, you kept your promise. Andrews felt weak. Messi stood beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. The corruption in the club isn't just about money, Clara's voice continued. It's about stolen dreams. Kids who need medicine like you did, Leo. Or special equipment like little Luke. She knew everything, Andrews whispered. Luke's father isn't the only one involved, Clara went on. There's a list in the Catechism book, page 23. Martin, my love, I know you'll want revenge, but I beg you to choose justice. Father Michael took out an old book from a shelf. Inside, there were names and details of money stolen. Leo, Clara's voice softened. When I met you, you were a child who thought your body had limits. Today you prove that limits exist only in our minds. Take care of my family when I'm gone." Messi nodded, his eyes filled with tears. "And Martin, the real miracle isn't whether God exists or not. It's that even with all the pain in the world, we still find reasons to love, to help, to believe." The recording ended. The room was silent. "There's more," Father Michael said. He gave Andrews an envelope. "She left this for today." "How did she know today's date?" Andrews asked. "She didn't," Father Michael smiled. "She told me to give it to you when you came with Leo, looking for answers instead of revenge." Inside the envelope was a photo of Clara teaching kids. Among them were young Messi and Luke. "That day," Messi remembered, "Clara told us that God doesn't give tests, but sends angels who look like ordinary people. And she was one of them," Father Michael said. Suddenly they heard children playing soccer outside. The three men walked to the window. "You know what's amazing?" Messi said. "Her plan worked." "What plan?" Andrews asked. "To bring together all the people who needed healing. You, Luke, the adapted sports program, my foundation." "Like a soccer team," Father Michael said with a smile. "Each player has a role, even if they don't know how the game will end." The monumental stadium was full of people waiting for the Copa America press conference. Hundreds of reporters were ready to see Messi speak. But no one expected to see Martin Andrews sitting in the front row. "Last chance to change your mind," Anna whispered to Messi backstage. "Clara never gave up," Messi replied, fixing his tie. "It's our turn to be brave." The cameras flashed as Messi walked onto the stage. Beside him, Luke sat in his wheelchair wearing the Paralympic team's jersey. "Before we talk about the Copa," Messi said, "I want to introduce someone special." Luke moved forward. "I'm Luke Roberts, and 15 years ago, my father caused an accident that changed many lives." The room became noisy. Andrews held Clara's last letter in his hands. "But this isn't a story about blame," Luke continued. "It's a story about hope." Messi took the microphone. "A week ago, a reporter asked me about faith. Today, that same reporter has something important to say." Andrews stood up and walked to the podium. This time his hands were steady. 15 years ago, I lost my wife and son. I was angry at God, at fate, at everyone. I even wrote an article attacking Messi's faith. But I had forgotten what Clara always said." He looked at the crowd. "True faith isn't about magic. It's about people who make good things happen." On the big screens, images appeared: kids in therapy, Jack saving goals, families getting help. "The corruption Clara found has been exposed," Andrews said. "The bad people will be punished. But more important than that is what we build from this." Luke spoke next. "Today we are creating the Clara Foundation, a program with the Messi Foundation and the Argentine Paralympic Committee. A place," Messi added, "where faith isn't just words, it's action. Where limits aren't the end but the beginning." Anna joined them on stage holding a book. Clara's story with all the proof will be shared. Not to hurt anyone, but to make sure her work continues. Andrews looked straight into the cameras. "And to answer the question I asked a week ago, yes, God exists. Not in big miracles, but in people who turn pain into kindness." At the back of the room, Father Michael smiled quietly. "The Copa America is important," Messi said. "But some wins are bigger than soccer. Clara taught us that." Luke lifted his Paralympic medal. "This one's for you, Clara." "And the new community center in Rosario," Andrews added, "will have her name. A place where faith and action come together." As reporters clapped, Messi looked up just like he did after every goal. But this time he whispered something only Anna could hear. "Thank you, Sino. Promise kept." In the last row, an old woman cried softly. Luke's mother finally understood Clara's plan, to turn sadness into hope. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more exciting stories filled with adventure, mystery, and unforgettable moments. Your support means the world. It keeps these stories coming and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.